So thank you very much for attending our festival. It's a great pleasure to have your film, which is a very unusual film in its making, because I would say I was quite amazed when I watched it, thinking about the timeline of this project, because Ellie, you were 9 months pregnant during the shooting, and you had decided to tell us about pregnancy in a very personal perspective. So can you tell us about all this very crazy project and how those people followed you without any problem, please?
Well, how did it start? I think in the first trimester, the first few months of being pregnant and telling people that I was pregnant, I had a very strong reaction against what felt like the normal way to behave. And I was quite angry. I felt quite angry at the world and all of us, myself included, at this, that we generated this kind of form of behaviour and this pattern of response that we had to sort of trot out every time someone said they were pregnant, and without really checking in with that person on how they were feeling. And so in that rush of kind of passion and anger, I wrote a script, and so it was very much located in that first feeling that I had. And so I wrote it quickly, really quickly. And after that, I got talking to Jack, who I'd met on another short film, Pylon, which I'd shot the year before or the summer before. That year, in fact. And I was just spitballing, really. I was just kind of like, what do you think? I mean, do you think this is something that could? Because the other thing that I thought was, you don't often see a real pregnant body up close and personal. You know, I think I'd seen one film before. The name escapes me. It's actually a French film, feature film, with there was a woman in it who's really pregnant.
Béatrice Dalle, I think, was
yes.
Yeah.
But it was shot at different times. So some of it was shot when she was pregnant, some of it was shot after. And I remember seeing that and thinking, God, yeah, we don't really see this very much. I mean, years and years ago this came out, and I thought it would be really cool to use this body while I have it, because obviously it's passing, it's ephemeral, it has an end date. Yeah. But while I have it, to make something of both the body and the emotional experience that I was having. And when I spoke to other people who were pregnant or had been pregnant, they said, yeah, I felt like that. Or there was a lot of sympathy and empathy. And I thought there's something here. And I think when I spoke to Jack, and later you know me, there was actually the appeal for 16 lay in the fact that, okay, we're going to have to do it, and we're going to have to do it fast. Yeah. And that's good, because sometimes these things can take so long. In fact, I remember Jack saying sometimes short films can drag and drag and drag, and he was like, I'm really attracted to this project because there's a cut-off point.
Clear deadline.
There's a clear deadline.
It's going to go. The opportunity to do this is going very quickly.
It's going. And so it felt like it just put the fire under us. And we were like, right. And I just started writing, redrafting and making edits and sending it to friends and sending it to producers and people and getting feedback. And we just dashed out loads of drafts. And then 4 months later, we were shooting it.
Yeah, it's amazing. In terms of production things, I mean, the fact that you had to find a location, you had to. How did you make it possible to? Because you had the date, I think, of the.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you knew about when you could the kind of shooting space. So how did you manage that?
So we had your due date, so we knew it was like, okay, it's got to be before then. But because we were talking about it earlier, like you want it to get to a point where you are like really pregnant, about to like you're about to give birth, which is what it was when we shot.
As shocking as possible.
Yeah.
As big as possible.
Yeah. So there was always the risk that you could give birth
early,
a couple of weeks. That could easily happen. And then the opportunity's gone and all the prep work is
That would have
like,
been a different
it's gone.
movie.
Yeah. But I think it was made easier in the fact that we shot in your house.
Yeah,
So
I
that
have
was
to
one
say,
thing.
part of the way I wrote the script, because I did think, as I was writing it, I was like, okay, if this is going to be made while I'm pregnant, what are the things that I can do to make it as easy as possible for production? I.e., one of the cast is me, so we only need to find
One other.
The other part is played by my partner, so who has acted in the past. So I was just trying to make it as easy as possible. I was like, we can use my flat, we can, just keeping it as simple.
Brought in a lot of friends to do a lot of work, which is great.
So you were some kind of co-producer. So.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Yeah, kind of. I made their lives easy.
Location manager and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you guys, but the thing that took ages was actually the interviewing all the different roles, all the HODs and stuff.
Yeah, finding our DP and then eventually finding Donna and like costume and makeup and those, bringing like all those people in. Because it's also, so it's a 2-day shoot that we shot in your house in London. So it's like pulling in, all of that work is so last minute. Like, are you available for these 2 days, and bring in people to do the work, and production designers working around your house in your like half, because your nursery room upstairs was like basically in the state that we needed it anyway. So it's a lot of mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I had sort of fake uteruses being brought in sort of boxes, like, what do you think, does this look real enough? And I was just like,
more blood.
More blood, more blood. That was quite surreal. Surreal experience. I've still got it, actually.
Is it still in that box?
Yeah, still in the box.
About the writing, I mean, you said that you wrote it when you were 2 months pregnant.
Yeah, roughly.
And so you shot it when you were 9 months pregnant. Were there things that you adapted, that you had written and you felt differently? Because as you focus on the hormonal ups and downs linked to pregnancy, there are very intimate scenes when you touch your, your baby. And so how did you rewrite things, and was it in the editing process that you eventually made the choice of reordering things, or how did you work that part?
Well, to be honest, I think the thing that changed most over the course of the redrafting and then after that in the edit was tonally, it was much more comedic. The early scripts were much more kind of just comedy, going for comedy. And as we read the drafts and talked about the drafts, we realised that there was kind of a more serious point being made, and more emotional depth that's potentially more interesting than jokes, I love jokes, but I had to admit, maybe this isn't the right moment for all the jokes. And I'm trying to think what changed. I think, that was probably the thing that changed the most, was that a lot of the sort of humour, there's still obviously a lot of humour, but a lot of it got taken out to leave space for the real sort of message, which was more tender and poignant, hopefully, and lonely. But what was I going to say?
I'll say about post-production, because when we did post,
so
we shot the film, and then you gave birth, and we're like, right, okay, we can leave this. We've shot it. It's fine. You take time to have a newborn. So then we didn't end up editing until 3/4 of a year later.
Yeah, well, I started after about 3 months, but it was very long gaps between, because it was just whenever I could just go for 2 hours at a time between breastfeeds. And so I'd leave the baby with my parents and then go run to the editor and,
Yeah.
and do 2 hours of editing, and then I'd have to run back and feed the baby. And so, yeah, that was quite.
And we did
long...
stop and start as well. I'm now remembering, like, we got to a cut that we thought you were happy with or we were happy with,
Yeah.
and then it would sit, and then we'd come back and it would change, and then so it changed quite a lot in post.
It did change a lot in the
Yeah,
edit.
did you change your mind? Yeah, that's what
Well, no.
No.
So that is what I was going to say. I actually, even though that, like I was talking about, that sort of first flush of the sort of anger that I felt against the world, I didn't change the message too much, even though I personally softened over the course. I mean, not that much. I still believe those things. You know, I really do think that there's, you know, in the whole time that I was telling people I was pregnant, only one person, when I said I'm pregnant, said, "Okay, how are you feeling about it?" And I just thought I was like, "Oh, God, thanks for asking. Yeah, I feel a bit scared and a bit nervous." And she went, "Yeah, I understand that. But, you know, you'll be great," or something. So instead of just, "Congratulations, you know, wonderful," and you go, "Yes," and there's no space. So I still believe that that's an important thing that we all need to think about. But I softened over the course of the pregnancy. However, I think that my feeling was that even if it only reached a niche group of people, that is to say women who are in the first trimester of pregnancy, I still think it's an important thing to have out there in the wider sort of discourse around maternity and you know, different forms of reaction to maternity.
Well, it's good
So I
for-
didn't want to change it too much.
It's good for men too to know what it is from the inside. If I could say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really.
And actually, earlier we were talking about, you know, the universality of because yes, it is very niche in one regard, but at the same time, it really is also a feeling, someone who's feeling isolated by their condition. So whether it's disability, illness, whatever it is, feeling isolated and like there's not really a space, or you're not necessarily going to get the right reception if you talk honestly about your feelings. This is men, women, everyone. This is like a, you know, these are...
So is that the reason why the only character with whom you talk about it looks like a kind of imaginary character?
Yeah. Well...
It's a real character.
It's a real character, and without wanting,
Yeah.
you know, without any spoilers, it's the story is told. If it is a story, the mood is conveyed over the course of one day in this person's life, and we wanted. It feels like a conversation that she's having with herself, and indeed, she is alone a lot. You know, women just before giving birth, as you know, will go into their maternity leave, and suddenly go from being people. I mean, if they do work, go from being people who work and are in control of their lives to being indolent, or, you know, for want of another word, you know, essentially not having anything to do. And it's a strange experience because, you know, you're on your own in the house, sort of wafting around, like
Stuck in a bit of a limbo,
Yeah,
like
in a-
waiting for the next thing to
waiting
happen,
for
waiting for the
something.
change to happen.
yeah, exactly.
But stuck in that.
A little bit stuck and a little bit isolated. And I don't know about you or you, but I do talk to myself. Certainly inside my head, constantly having conversations and thinking, and, you know, it just never stops. So I think with Push, that was, we, you know, wanted to evoke the feeling of an internal conversation. And then we thought about different ways in which to make that more cinematically interesting, obviously, because you want it to tell a story as well visually. And so, yeah, I think it's somewhere between. It's limbo is the right word, and somewhere between the inner and the outer.
And my last question about that is, it maybe is it what makes it different from a documentary film, because it's very difficult to put the line between what really is you,
Yeah.
and what is your character in the film.
Yeah.
So how did you live through that, being an actress, and at the same time getting through what the actress was living?
Yeah, I think I mean, it is a very autobiographical piece, you know, obviously.
Sure.
So it, for me, where the acting began, I suppose maybe this is a bit of a boring response, but in a technical way, you know, I felt very connected to the story and the person, obviously, because it came from me. But obviously, technically, when you have to reshoot, you know, you have to go over scenes and take them again and again, then it just becomes about your sort of your technique and your, I don't know, your actor's stamina to kind of repeat those feelings. But I think because it was so intertwined with my own experience, especially at that moment, it felt quite easy to reach for. But I was very glad when what became my son Dylan performed.
He did his part.
He played his part very well. That was actually a really nice moment, both for me and on set. But for me, it was special because that symbiotic, the first time, not for everybody, but for me, the first time that you really begin to sense another person and a connection with that person is when they start moving, because until then it's kind of conceptual and then it becomes really real. So in that moment it was quite special because for me, I don't know if it's because I'm a show off, but I was like, all these people are watching.
Quick,
come on.
And he did it quickly.
And he did, and I was
it
just
was like, yeah, go on. See, I told you.
We're gonna be fine. Good boy. So that was really nice, and it was special on set, wasn't it?
It was really lovely, yeah.
Yeah, because I think there was this hushed moment where everyone just kind of went,
yeah. But it's interesting what you say about like how is it unlike or like a documentary of like how is that structure built? I don't know. I think when it could very easily be a documentary of like how it's because it's like you in your house with your baby, like kind of pottering around and chatting to yourself, as you say, but like.
No, the fact is, when you watch it, you feel you're watching a narrative movie.
Yeah. It's like the structure and like how it was built and shot, and there's also like the moments of surrealism in there and like that like daydreamy part, which is really great and like pulls it away from that. But I'm just now like thinking of all the like scheduling stuff that we had to put in place of like. If you're doing a documentary, it'd be like, okay, we just see what happens. Yeah. Whereas there was a lot of structure in what we did.
Yeah. And I think, I guess we could have done a documentary, but I suppose that would have been different again in terms of, then you would have been watching a documentary and it wouldn't have been as surprising to have a...
And this is more fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, you've got very good ideas to make it fun at times and very moving at other times. So the ups and downs are very well made. So it's what makes it very lovely to watch. Really.
Maybe it was tempting to input some structure just to have some control over what felt like a very uncontrollable thing. I don't know.
Anyway, I can't wait to watch it this evening.
Yeah.
Because I really love it. I watch it on my small computer screen.
So much better on the big screen.
Yeah, of course. I can't wait to do that. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for
Christoph.
attending the festival. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having us. Yeah, delighted.